Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today I thought I would give an overview of a process called cellular respiration. Cellular respiration, as the name implies, is a process that occurs at a cellular level in cells. And the word respiration is somewhat linked to the process of what we commonly appreciate it in the respiratory system, where we breathe in oxygen. In fact, oxygen is a very important aspect of the cellular respiration process that we're going to talk about. But at a cellular level, the process of cellular respiration means converting glucose molecule and deriving the energy from it. So it's a process where we derive energy from the glucose molecule. Photosynthesis was a process where we produce glucose, right? And cellular respiration is a process where we take glucose and we derive energy from it in the form of ATP. Okay, so it is a process where we produce ATP from the food that we eat, so to speak. Okay, so cellular respiration is a complex series of processes, and I shall outline this for you. The first part of cellular respiration is called glycolysis. This term, if you break it down, it means glycolysis is breakdown of glucose. So lysis meaning to break down. So glycolysis is to breaking down of glucose. In this process, a glucose molecule is going to be broken down into two smaller molecules. I think it's important for us to familiarize ourselves with glucose molecule and be able to draw it out. And it's one, because it's kind of fun. Secondly, because it helps us understand these processes a little bit better. So if you have time, maybe it's worth it to kind of draw this out. So a glucose molecule is a six-membered sugar molecule like this, six-membered ring molecule like this. Okay. So, and at one of the corners, however, is an oxygen molecule like that. Okay, so if you want to draw it out, so I usually draw the oxygen molecule first, and I put, this goes here, and these like that. So now I have a six-membered ring. If you want to make it look like a 3D effect, you make these lines a little darker. Okay. So this is a six-membered ring, but that will account for 5 carbons because there's 6 carbon total. So we have to put an extra carbon, and that goes over here, CH2. Every carbon needs 4 bonds, okay? Now, one of the features of sugar molecules in general is that they are studded with or decorated with a lot of hydroxyl groups. They are decorated with a lot of hydroxyl groups. Hydroxyl group is OH, has a negative charge like this. Okay, that's a hydroxyl group. Okay, so when water, for example, breaks down into its constituents, a hydrogen ion and a hydroxide ion like this. So this is a hydroxyl group. So one of the features of sugars molecules in general is that most of the carbon atoms in sugars are attached to at least one oxygen. So in the same way, our glucose molecule here is going to have lots of hydroxyl groups attached to it, like this. Okay, now there are 2 types of glucose molecules. There's beta glucose and there's alpha glucose. And they differ in how the hydroxyl group is attached over here. In beta glucose, the hydroxyl group is attached like this. Okay, and in alpha glucose, hydroxyl group is attached like this. Okay, I remember this from my college days. When I remember this, I remember beta glucose being like this, like a little flag up there. So the beta glucose and hydroxyl group is attached over here like this. So this is a glucose molecule. Now, as I said, I think it's kind of important to be able to draw this out. So the way I remember adding the hydroxyl group is, okay, you start off over here, hydroxyl group. Okay, so now this goes up, this goes down, they alternate. And this goes up, and this goes down. Now notice it's the oxygen that's attached to the carbon, the hydrogen is attached to the oxygen, so therefore they're kind of drawn like with the O attached to the carbon. And then we're going to draw a alpha glucose, okay, like this. So this is a glucose molecule, okay? So this is glucose. In the first part of cellular respiration, glucose molecule is converted via a series of steps. There are several steps here. There are actually 10 in total. And the glucose is converted into two molecules, two smaller molecules. I'm going to make these areas a little smaller, of pyruvate. Now, pyruvate looks like this. Okay, there's a carbon here, and a carbon here, and there's a 3 over here. Okay, there's an oxygen over here. And this carbon, I'm going to draw it out as a color-coded carbon. Okay. So this is a OH group over here. This is pyruvate. Now, pyruvate is a very important and very versatile molecule. You see it, you'll see it a lot. You get to know it. Now, recognize that pyruvate is a 3-carbon molecule. So for every glucose, you're going to produce 2 pyruvates. Okay, so you're going to have 2 of these. Okay, so you have pyruvate times 2, meaning you're going to produce 2 pyruvate molecules. So glycolysis, or the first part of cellular respiration, is conversion of glucose molecule here into 2 smaller molecules of pyruvate. So now pyruvate, as I've suggested, is a 3-carbon molecule. There's 1, there's 2, and there is 3. So pyruvate is 3-carbon molecule. Now in this process, it's going to require us to spend some energy. So there are 2 ATPs that are actually required initially, in the initial step. So that we need to put into the reactions. So we actually spend some ATP over here in the initial phases of reaction. So it's an energy requiring process in the first half. So remember I said there are 10 steps. In the first 5 steps, there are 2 steps that require energy, ATP. So, however, the next 5 steps, the second half of glycolysis, will actually generate energy, all right? And it will generate, in fact, 4 ATPs. Okay, so it will generate 4 ATPs for us. That's very good. So the net gain is going to be 2 ATPs. This process is going to give us 2 ATPs. And then what it will also give us, in fact, 2 molecules of NADH plus H plus. Now, NADH, we have seen a related molecule when we were talking about photosynthesis, and NADPH molecule. And these are very similar molecules. And these are electron carriers. So this is a electron carrier. In other words, they take high energy electrons and they carry it. Carry it where, you would say? Well, to electron transport chain. Okay. So these are taxi molecules, so to speak, okay? They taxi the high energy electrons to the electron transport chain. And this, in fact, is where we're going to produce bulk of the ATP in this process of cellular respiration. So majority of the ATP that's produced in cellular respiration is going to occur in electron transport chain, okay? But we're getting a little ahead of our story. So what I do want to say is this process also gives us NADH plus H plus. Now, it's carrying 2 electrons, and there are 2 H's over here because they're just kind of tagging along with the electrons. So NADH plus H plus is carrying 2 electrons, okay? Okay, so in fact, you usually just write it short form like this. So this actually is how it's written, but NADH is the same thing as NADH plus H. Okay, H plus like that. So there are 2 electrons hidden in there. Now NADH is converted from NAD plus. So NAD plus is converted to NADPH in this process. So there are molecules that come in here. For example, this would be like this. Okay, NAD plus is going to be converted to NADPH. Okay, so this is the first step of cellular respiration. Okay, the first step of cellular respiration is changing glucose molecule to 2-pyruvate molecules. Okay, after a brief pause, I'll go to the second step, inshallah. Until then, assalamu alaikum.